Good morning and afternoon, depending where you are in the LinkedIn Live YouTube universe. Thank you for joining today. My name is Michael Wordy, Certified Financial Planner and Regional Director at Source Advisors. And I have asked to join me this morning, Ross Karp, who is the founder of 3P Insurance. Ross, thank you for joining.
Michael, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, Ross, the reason that I wanted you to join, and I'm glad this worked out in your schedule, is because of what's been going on with 2020 and all the challenges that have taken place. I feel like planning, protection planning, overall life planning is more important this year. And I think people are recognizing it a lot more now than they ever were. Is that true?
I think it's very true. I think, let's go back to March. When this first started, I think everybody's life was put into a tailspin. You were going to go work from home. Your kids were going to be schooling from home. You were going to be making sure your kids were learning while you were trying to work. And everybody had this major balancing act. And so there was this total upheaval. And, everyone's like, all right, this is going to be a 2 or 3 week thing. And then all of a sudden it turned into 1 week, 2 months, 3 months. And as it dragged on, people got everything settled in. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I know somebody who got it. Oh, this happened. And it made people start to think, what if something were to happen to me? What happens to my family? And so I think this was a wake up call for a lot of people. I think, in my industry, we see a lot of people with the, never be me, it's not me mentality. And I think this was a little bit of a wake up call for everybody to say, this doesn't discriminate. This could happen to anybody at any time, no matter how careful you are.
Yeah. And I know quite a few people that have family members, outside family members, friends as well, that have experienced this. And in just talking, on Zoom calls with people, the conversations I have been leaning towards what happens if I get it and something detrimental happens to me. And I'm sure you've seen this with clients that are calling you even.
It's definitely coming up a lot more now. Like I said, over the summer, it started coming up. And now that, we're in this second wave, it's, people are definitely getting more and more concerned. It's, it's starting to hit home more. People are starting to be able to relate. It's no longer, 4 or 5 degrees of separation. Now we're talking about 1 and 2 degrees of separation from people that know that have it.
Yeah. Ross, we actually just jumped into the meat of the conversation, but before we get too deep into it, let's have you formally introduce yourself. And also, I want to know, what does 3P of 3P Insurance Services stand for?
So 3P Insurance Services stands for Protection Portfolio Planning. When I started the firm, I was like, what do I do? What do I help my clients with? And I help them with their protection portfolio. It's the planning for the worst case scenario, the things that people don't want to talk about. If something happens, and of course, when I say worst case scenarios, I'm talking about injury, illness, and the real worst case scenario is death. What happens? What happens for the lifestyle of the family? What happens to the business? And so we focus on working with our clients on putting together their life, disability, and long-term care portfolios to protect that.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Also, I want to make mention to the audience, listeners, and everybody out there, if you do have questions, go ahead and post those questions on the add a comment section, and I will definitely get to those questions. And hopefully we have enough time today, and Ross has enough time in his day to answer those. So, Ross, you talked a little bit about what you weren't sure you were going to do. And so starting 3P, what was the genesis of the idea of really, can you share why you started 3P?
Sure, absolutely. So I started in the industry. I was working with a carrier. I actually went from one carrier to another carrier, and then was the internal life agent for a property and casualty broker here in Manhattan. And my role was to kind of be a resource for them. Everyone had clients, they had a need, and they didn't specialize in the life side of things, so they wanted somebody who could really take care of their clients. and I realized I had a lot of people that I knew from my networks that were financial advisors and P&C brokers that wanted to work with me, wanted to use me as an ancillary service to what they do, an extension of themselves, but couldn't because I was working for this firm.
Mm-hmm.
For one reason, obviously, a P&C broker is not going to want to send me business because I'm working for their competition.
Yeah.
And wealth advisors had other reasons. So I realized I had all these folks that wanted to work with me but couldn't. So I got to the point where I was like, all right, it's time to go out on my own. I started 3P Insurance and reached out to those P&C brokers, those financial advisors to say, hey, let's work together. There's no roadblocks in getting in the way. The other reason that I started 3P is I didn't want to work for a carrier. I didn't want to be, restricted and told, hey, push these products, push our carrier. I wanted to have the autonomy to do what's best for our clients
Mm-hmm.
and be able to, look at their scenario and say, okay, here's the best carrier for you. Here's the best fit versus trying to make them fit for the carrier I was working with. When I was working with a carrier, they were like, "Oh, why didn't you place the business with us? Why did you go outside?" And the client just didn't meet their profile. I have the flexibility. No one questions why did you take this person to carrier A over B. It's like it's all best fit for the client.
Yeah. So now you have that independence. Ultimately, you're able to deliver the best product or the best product to your clients.
Best solution. Let's say solution.
I like that.
Product is, there are some people out there who push a product on clients. I'm about solutions, not products.
Good. And I got to think it's probably difficult at times in delivering solutions because I'm sure you get a lot of different providers that come to you and say, we have the best solution. But you kind of, you do, and correct me if I'm wrong, you vet out what's going to be the best solution for your clients versus
Definitely.
just saying, go ahead.
No, please. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, versus saying this is the hot service or the hot solution for the month, so we're going to push this all out to our clients, and then going to another one. You truly are looking at what is this client, what are their needs, what do they have that they need protecting.
Right. I mean, it's part of our process. When we talk to a client, we really are finding out what their goals and needs are. What are the potential ramifications if something happens to the cash flow? Mm-hmm. And that's how we determine, once we know what their goals are and what their needs are, then we can put a proper plan together using, whether it be term insurance or a whole life or, disability insurance and just finding the right fit for them and what's going to fit those goals.
Sure. So I know you, Ross, through a networking group, and I think I can mention it, MMG, which is a great group. And we go around and we introduce ourselves. And Ross, you consistently talk about being an asset to your clients. And I'm glad that we're talking because now I actually feel comfortable in asking you this. For our audience, for our listeners, not for me, but for our audience, what does that mean?
So when I first started in the insurance industry, I was new to sales. And look, at the end of the day, it is a sales job. I look at it now, here we are 15 plus years later, as more consulting with clients. But at the end of the day, there is a component of sales to it. And I knew going in, I didn't want to just be a salesperson. That wasn't me. That wasn't my style. I wanted to be, like you said, an asset for my clients. And I needed, being new to the city, being new to insurance and sales. I'm a former history teacher, history and economics at the high school level. And so I didn't have the resources that my clients would need. If I'm sitting there talking to a client and they're like, oh yeah, our mortgage rate, we're paying 6%. Well, Now, knowing what I know, that sounds off to me. If somebody tells me they have a mortgage, they're paying 6%, something's wrong. Why
Right.
haven't you refinanced in such a low? And there are questions I know to ask because I have the resources from my networking group, MNG, which we call it just short for. And so I have these resources who have taught me what to look for and what to think about, and it's all for the benefit of the client.
Mhm.
And I wanted that. I wanted to be sort of like the Swiss Army knife for the client. So when we're talking, if there was something that comes up, something that they need, I want to be their first call. Ross has the solution for me. Ross is my guy. Ross is the if the client's sitting there saying to themselves, if they have a problem, I want them calling me so that I can find somebody that I know, someone that I trust, someone that I have a good relationship with, that I know is going to handle and take care of the problem for them. Now, without the networking group, I wouldn't have access to the people, to the resources. You can't build yourself as wanting to be an asset and a resource if you don't have the assets and the resources.
So you go from being a history and economics teacher to getting into this industry, in the insurance industry, the advisory industry, and being an asset. I'm sure it was difficult. Was it more difficult than what you thought, or was it a smooth transition?
Well, they told me it was going to be a smooth transition, but now I've learned they tell that to everybody. It was tough because it was a different way of thinking.
Yeah,
and not having the natural market. There'd be people who come into the industry. They have you put together like your project 100 or 200, which is like the list of 200 names of people you're going to call. Well, I didn't have that. And so, it was definitely in the beginning, a lot of hard work on trying to build that. And it's also one of the reasons why when I started 3P, it was like, listen, I'm best at planning. I'm best at sitting down with a client and uncovering their plan. And I needed people who had that. So when I started 3P, to be that, that extension of my partners, the property and casualty brokers, the financial advisors, CFPs like yourself, which, we just talked about before, and I didn't realize you were a CFP until I saw it up there. But, that's where I get my clients, a majority. 90% of our clients come from our partners.
Yeah.
And referrals. When I was working for agencies and they would be like, okay, when you write a policy, make sure you don't leave until you get 15 names to call.
Wow.
And I was like, that's not, I wasn't comfortable with that. If a client's going to refer me, they're going to refer me. And I don't want to put somebody on the spot. And so that was another reason why, once I left the carriers, I felt a lot more comfortable about what I was doing.
So, leaving the carriers, starting 3P, do you feel like you've achieved that goal of being an asset to your clients?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's ever evolving. I'm always looking for new resources. I'm always looking for my clients and my partners to challenge me, to come to me and say, hey, here's something I need. And if I don't have it, I look at it as a personal challenge to go out and get it. And it may be something maybe I'll need once or twice, but that's okay. It's, so I'm going to go out and find it. I'm going to try to uncover every stone that I can. And listen, sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not, depending on how obscure it is. But, you never know until you try.
True.
So, I'll reach out to people in my group and say, hey, I need someone who does this service. Who do you know?
Yeah.
And matter of fact, one of the things I do when I, the infamous iced teas and one-on-ones, one of the questions I'll ask somebody that I'm meeting for the very first time is what comes up that their clients need that they don't have access to. So, I'll ask them that question and I'll get a list and they'll say, I need X, Y, and Z for my clients. And first of all, that gives me an opportunity to introduce and connect people in my network with each other. I think good good people should be connected with good people that can have a mutually beneficial relationship that ultimately the client benefits from. But if there's something on there that I don't have, it gives me, again, a little bit of motivation.
Yeah.
So somebody to look for. So, it never gets boring around here.
Yeah. And what I find impressive about that, and I've experienced it in talking with you and knowing you, is that you've positioned yourself. You have, and just like I said, I've experienced this. You've positioned yourself as an asset and really as a go-to person for your clients, because you've come to the group and said, I need somebody who does this. Who do we know? Who can I get my clients in front of, or vice versa? A lot of people use that and talk about it, but it's rare. So it's impressive, and hats off to you for this, for following through and doing it for your clients. And that's important. I mean, when you look at, this is another question I have for you, is how do people know what they need? Like, you could sit with someone that's looking for protection, but they don't know what they need because they don't know what's out there. How do you approach that with someone?
So a lot of it will come from the questions that I'm asking my clients. A lot of it are things that are directly connected to myself. So again, I mentioned earlier, when we're going over people's finances, I'm asking them questions about their mortgage, what their future plans are. I'm letting them know about updating their wills and trusts. Who do they work with that they're comfortable with? Who are they not comfortable with? Do you love your CPA? Oh, well, well, I've been doing it myself, but I've kind of outgrown. Well, if you need somebody, let me know. And I think that's constantly the theme, is if you need something, let me know. So there are some things that are directly associated with what I do that, I'll be able to uncover a need and ask the client point blank. There are other things that are not going to come up. It's not going to come up. Oh, do you need an interior designer? But if I say to them, look, if there's anything you need at any point, and they're thinking about remodeling or they're thinking about moving, they'll be like, oh, I wonder if Ross has anybody in his quote unquote Rolodex. And that he can introduce us to. So it's about just letting the client know, trying to give them as much information as I can that's directly associated with what we do, and then just letting them know, look, if there's something, even if it's not related, ask, because I do have this network of people.
Right. And that's so important that you become that focal point, and that any question, your clients come back to you. We don't know where to go. We need this. Who do you know? Getting back to the planning part of this conversation, because again, beginning of the year looks a lot different than it does now. What are some of the areas that you see in talking with clients and prospective clients that are really overlooked when they're creating a plan, or when they have a plan? A lot of people look at their stuff and they'll say, hey, it's good for this year. I don't need to think about it. I think now it's incredibly important to sit down and review a plan. What are you seeing that things are what's being overlooked?
I think in general, one of the most overlooked things when I'm talking to clients that we see and uncover is their disability insurance. I think everyone knows about life insurance when they first come to us. It does start with the conversation of life insurance. Oh, I just got married. I just had a baby. I just bought a house. Oh, this just changed. I need life insurance. We all have those moments where it's like, hey, I'm a grown up now. I need to look at certain things. And a lot of people have in their mind, well, I have disability through work, or I have disability here. And for the masses, a lot of times that is true. The coverage at the workplace, is adequate. They're well taken care of, and they don't have to worry about it. There are other people who maybe have reached the max that the policy limits offer, but they're making significantly more. And then what? There are people who make commission and bonus, and that's not covered. So one of the things that we always ask our clients is to get us a copy of their group disability coverage, because we want to make sure that they have what they think they have. And in some cases, we look at it and we're like, hey, you're in great shape, nothing to do here, or hey, there's a gap. Are you aware of it? Are you comfortable with that? Or do we need to look at filling that in some way, shape, or form?
So as you're talking about this, and this is something that for my wife and I, we've talked about with regards to disability insurance, that being overlooked with right now where people don't know if, or hopefully not when, but if they get COVID, how does that tie in? Because I got to think that having disability insurance, everybody should have it now. Am I overstating?
No, I mean, listen, everybody should have it as something to protect themselves, their cash flow, and their families. The thing to remember with long-term disability insurance is the operative word there is long-term. Benefits usually kick in after 90 or 180 days, depending on how you set up the waiting period. So it is designed for a longer term. So even with people who have come down with COVID and they've been out of work because of it, I don't know if a lot of them are hitting that 6-month mark. Honestly, I haven't seen the stats on what on where that has come into play. But again, there are the lingering effects that could come in later on that we don't know about. That could raise some issues. So again, just reviewing, I guess, and knowing what you have and what to expect is always the best place to start.
So if it doesn't kick in for 90 or 180 days, is there a gap insurance policy that you recommend or that you talk with clients, or is it, hey, you need to have in your savings, you need to have set aside this much money?
I think it's a combination of both. I think people, and again, usually the financial advisors that we work with go over that portion about people having a reserve, an emergency reserve of 3 to 6 months, on some people more, for the just in case. There's also short-term disability insurance. That the companies usually provide that. Because there's not on the individual, for an individual to get short-term disability is ridiculously expensive. So going through and the company getting it for the employees is usually the smartest, best way, and how most people have the short-term disability. So ours usually kicks in with the long-term and in conjunction with what they have.
So I lost my my one question that I was going to ask, but I'll come back. Oh, this was my question. When I remember I used to have my life insurance license back in the 90s. And if I remember correctly, and I probably don't, there needed to be specific things that took place in order for you to qualify for the insurance to kick in. Is that still the case, or is that it's not quite that specific anymore?
With life or disability?
Disability.
So obviously, if you're disabled, you can't go to work, and the doctor certifies it. That you can't do your job duties. That's when it will kick in. And again, a lot of that really comes down to the definition. Depending on your profession, there are certain definitions where it's like a non-working, so you can't work at all, and if you can, the policy doesn't cover. And then there's you can't do your job, your own occupation. And then, so there are different definitions, and it really does come down to what your job title is in the carrier. And then there's, obviously you can go back to work part-time. You recover and you start to go back to work, but you're still, suffering some loss because you can't go back full-time. There are provisions in the policies that allow for part-time work, and they help make you whole as possible.
Got it. And then how much in general for any type of coverage, whether it's disability, life, whatever the coverage is there a rule of thumb that you go by to say, here's how much you should have or consider, or is each case unique in itself and you can't really say this is how much?
Each case is unique, because, when part of our process, when we sit down, a little bit of the secret sauce here, When we sit down with clients, it's really doing this full overview. Okay, what is your cash flow? Where is it coming from? What are your expenses? And if we take income A out of the mix,
Mm-hmm.
does income B cover the expenses? If not, there's a gap. What is that gap? How do we want to cover it? And then also it's asking the client, what's your vision? If something happens, what is your vision? What do you want to have for your family?
Yeah.
Obviously it changes as we get older. When people are younger, they have kids, they're like, okay, I want to start a college fund. I want to make sure the house is taken care of. There's a roof over everybody's head. I want to make sure that, if something happens to the spouse, if the spouse is stay at home, that there's someone there to take care of the kids, which is a different level of expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously as children get older, as things change, as mortgages get paid off, then it becomes, okay, what do you need to do? What do you want to do? And
right.
Depending on the stage, we try to take the client through that. And obviously we should reevaluate over time because people's needs change, their thoughts change, their wants change. Taxation rules change.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't have to worry about estate tax. Oh, then there's new laws. Now you do have to worry about estate tax issues. So that's when we try to work with the attorneys and the CPAs to kind of figure that out. So it really is always, because everything around is changing, we do need to meet, not regularly. I don't say you have to meet every year. That's
Mm-hmm.
a little ambitious to meet with us, but every few years as things change significantly, definitely regathering and going through the plan.
So when they meet with you, do you meet with, would it be with you, the attorneys, financial advisors, planners? Is it a group setting or is it each individual? How do you approach that?
It's different. There are times where I have some financial advisors who will say, hey, Ross, here's my client, go. Please meet with them. And then I have others who will sit down and we'll brainstorm together. They'll get the full picture and we'll brainstorm together. And other times it's, we'll meet together. We'll have the conversation. We'll look at it. Usually it's myself, the financial advisor. Sometimes we'll ask the client to get their attorney involved if there's something that comes up and we want to put this in a trust. Oh, we want to do this. Well, in order to do this, maybe we should get your lawyer involved. So we make sure that we're writing it up the way that's going to coincide with what they're doing.
And of course, this question always comes up. So I'm going to go ahead and ask, when you sit down with someone for a first review, most financial planners will do a cursory review, like a 20-minute conversation, say, okay, we can do this for you. And then they'll say, here's my fee. Do you charge to do the full reviews?
We don't charge at all. So
okay.
When we get paid at the end by the carrier. So if the client takes insurance,
mm-hmm.
The carrier pays us. If
they don't need anything directly.
Nope. Correct. The client doesn't pay us directly at all.
And you will review, advise, guide. You'll work it with the team environment, give them the deliverable, give them the service and the solutions that they need. And if they decide to go with those, you get paid by the carriers, not by the client.
Correct. And that's one of the things that, bless you, one of the things that I love about being independent is, there is no incentive for me to go to carrier A over B over C. Everything is on an equal playing field, so I really can find what's best for the client. And the carriers, they don't say, oh, well, because we have to pay Ross a commission, we're going to charge more than if the client came direct. The price is the price. Everyone's getting the same thing. So you can do it on your own, or you can do it with me and have my guidance and help, especially through the underwriting process. Which really sometimes comes into play if there's something that goes awry. we weren't expecting the blood work to come back a certain way. So we don't like the offer the carrier's making. Well, let's behind the scenes, let's review and make sure that the other carriers and see, how they would look at this issue, and maybe we can get a better offer elsewhere and we'll switch it up. So those are some of the benefits that we on flexibility we have, to be able to say, oh, let's switch to this carrier, versus, okay, we're stuck here.
I know there are people who will just say, I do it on my own. I review everything. It's without being in the business. And I know this from my industry and being in financial services prior to this, unless you're doing this all day, every day, you can't do it yourself effectively, because the industry, the carriers, the solutions. Whereas I could do it, but I don't have time. It's a full-time job to do all that.
So I think also there are things that people think about. Also, they're taking advice from people who don't know, they don't know their situation. Oh, my neighbor has this, therefore I want this. Well, maybe this is not right for you. Maybe you make more than your neighbor. Maybe you need more insurance. Maybe you make less than your neighbor. You don't, and I had a client recently who was like, I want this product. Well, why do you want that product? It's not right for you. And trying to talk them through it and have the conversation. And I remember one time it was a used car salesperson that I was working with. And I remember he was going through his policy and he was telling me what he wanted to do. And I looked at it and I was reviewing his old policies. And I said, based on what you're telling me, if you make this adjustment to your current policy, you're good. You don't have to do anything else. And he looked at me and he goes, the true car salesman. Wait, he goes, you just talked yourself out of a sale, right? Because I did. I advised him on what he could do with his existing policies, because he was like, oh, I'm just going to cancel these and buy a new policy and do this. And then in a couple of years, I'll go back and I'll do this. And it was like, why are you doing that when all you have to do is this little change here and you'll be fine? It was a cash flow issue.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like, oh. And he's like, you talked to yourself. I'm like, I don't care that I talked myself out of a sale. Did I do right by you? Yes. That's all that matters.
It's the truth.
And, my thing is, look, if you put enough good, you do right by clients, hopefully, karma comes back and does right by you.
Yep. That's so true. It's so true. And that's the value. That's the advising versus the selling that you were talking about earlier, that you're not pushing product, you're delivering solutions. Anything else I should have asked you that I forgot to ask you that you could think of? I think I covered quite a bit, I think.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think we covered a lot.
We did.
Do our viewers have any questions?
I was just looking. I don't see any. But my system has been delayed a little bit, so let me refresh. I don't see any.
Come on, let's have a new segment. Stump Ross. Come on, folks. Hit me with some questions.
We're keeping on. I was waiting for someone to say, what about this? There may be some that come through later, but I don't see any right now, which I'm okay with. Some people get a little nervous about sending in questions.
Don't be nervous, folks. You're behind like a wall. No one sees you. No one knows you.
I won't put your name out there. I may not. Well, yeah, I don't see anything coming through. Ross, I want to thank you again.
Michael, thank you.
Appreciate you coming on. Let's regroup. I would like to do this again in 6 months to see what the landscape is and what's changed and what you're seeing in terms of, the quarantining and the COVID issues, and are there new ideas and strategies that we could that you can share. So
absolutely. Look forward. And if you want me back before 6 months, just let me know.
Always. Oh, wait, before we leave, you got to give the iced tea quote.
The what?
The iced tea quote. Come on. I'm not letting you get away that easy.
So when we do our networking group, I always say to find out more, it's going to cost you a virtual iced tea and a one-on-one.
There you go. and it's virtual right
By the
now.
way, I'm thinking I might start my own little LinkedIn Live thing, and I'm going to call it Virtual Iced Tea.
I think that's a great idea. I won't steal it from you. I'll just be jealous when you put it out there.
You can be my first guest.
I would love to. Ross, thank you again. Any questions? People have any thoughts? Need to have a review done? You can reach Ross at your email address.
It's Ross at 3p-insurance.com.
Ross at 3p-insurance.com.
Should we put that up there somewhere? Is there a way to do that?
There is. Hold on 1 second. Keep talking and I'll put it up there.
Oh wow, you're gonna let me riff, huh? That's dangerous.
I gotta type quick.
The best way is Ross at 3p-insurance.com, or that is the best way. And then I can answer it via email. Sometimes my phone, because when I'm on with clients, my phone is off or things go to voicemail. So email is the fastest response, although I am constantly connected to my phone.
How's that? Did I spell it right?
See. Oh, I like that. Let's see. It's scrolling.
That's beautiful. All right.
Love
I'm going to keep it up there for a couple more seconds.
Okay. You will love it scroll. Listen, before we leave, it is, I hope everybody I wanted to start with this, but you jumped right in with those curveballs.
I'm sorry. I was excited. I
like it. I like it. Listen, I want to wish everybody happy holidays
and a happy new year.
It's thank God 2020 is over, and hopefully 2021 will be better for everybody. And if you had a great 2020, because some people did, 2020 wasn't awful for everybody. So if you had a great 2020, let 2021 be even better.
Exactly. For everybody, 2021 should be better for everybody. Those that had challenges, that had success and great stories, everybody should have a better 2021.
Absolutely.
That's definitely what I wish. What are you big plans for New Year's?
No.
Good.
That's all right. No,
this can't be a conversation. You just go with no.
No. There's no conversation here. No, I think
I did learn never to ask closed-ended questions, and I went ahead and did.
No. New Year's Eve around here is at midnight. The ball drops. Me and my wife, we hug, we kiss, we say Happy New Year. She falls asleep, and I play video games. Could be the Benadryl that I put into her champagne or something like that. I don't do that, so
I assume she's watching, and now she's not going to celebrate New Year's with you.
No, she's not. But she could probably hear me in the other room, and I'll probably get the evil eye when I walk out of the office.
You embarrass me in front of everyone.
Exactly. Now everyone knows that I'm the late night person, and she does look at me when she stays up past the hour, and she's like, "You're just waiting for me to fall asleep." I'm like, "Yes, go to sleep." I've got Madden and FIFA to play.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right.
How about yourself?
I got nothing. We are doing nothing, and I'm okay with that. We're usually out of town. Obviously not this year. But my kids told me that they're gonna go do something. They don't want to hang out with us, so that's fine. And so it's gonna be my wife and I. I usually fall asleep at consistently around 10:30, and then I'll wake up at 1. Say Happy New Year and go to bed.
Nice.
Yeah. It'll be fun. All right, Ross, I got to wrap up.
Have a great New Year, whatever you end up doing.
Stay safe.
Enjoy, and to everybody out there, Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy, healthy.
Same to you. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
See you in 21.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.